I muted the Discord so they can't hear.
Alien Dance Scotty 265 Ride Scotty 265 Owl Trooper Scotty 265 Wet Scotty 265 Hooting Scotty 265 Water. Gobbertastic subscribed to your channel for 21 months.
Let's switch to a cartoony character.
Not cartoony enough.
What's up?
He said he switched to a cartoon character.
Yeah, I had to. Oh, never mind. I meant the.
There we go.
I had to change my alerts because.
Nice. There are issues?
Yeah, because I was getting copyright strikes on YouTube.
Copyright strikes?
Damn.
Copyright strikes.
Why were you getting copyright strikes?
Because when people resubscribe, I had cartoon and music, copyrighted music playing.
Oh.
Always happens. It doesn't automatically
It says
change.
repo on your title.
What?
Or the game you're playing says repo.
Might have to hit refresh.
Yeah, I did.
I know it
said the same thing.
So it hasn't.
Okay, now it's fixed. No, I didn't change it. I keep forgetting to like scan down and change the game. In OBS.
I do it on OBS and sometimes it doesn't change it.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it like in chat, but I try to just do it in OBS.
Yeah, the engineer stuff works well with Prime. From the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of them is a buzzsaw.
Nice.
Cartoon Prime has. I don't know if he has it in live action.
There we go. Now it's one Mutant Mayhem Unleashed. It was two.
Oh, shit.
It's been a while since I streamed. I guess I forgot how to set everything up. Ooh, I actually heard some interesting updates on the car industry.
Oh, really?
What's up, J Kill? J Kill 85. Woo woo. So Stellantis, that's the company that owns like Mopar and Jeep, and they filed for bankruptcy today.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right.
And then Chevy put a stop to making cars, like all vehicles in the US at the moment. Yeah, because they moved their entire operation to Mexico.
In Mexico?
Yeah, that's where all the Chevys are being made. And then because of the 30% tariff on importing vehicles,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, really, J. Kill?
Oh, so the Fortress of Solitude.
Really slowing down.
Yeah, I gotta go there for a quest.
Yeah, come join us, J. Kill. Let's kill some people in Fortnite. Oh shit. It just loaded me in after the bus just. Okay, time to eject you. It happens like every update. Like,
Yeah, it did to me earlier too. I was in the lobby for like a second,
What?
and I was in the bus.
you don't have Fortnite? Get Fortnite. It's not very big on your. It's free, yeah.
Was this here the whole time?
I don't think it was. I don't
I feel
recall
like they
seeing it.
just added it like this week or something.
Yeah, what he is. Superman thing. Because I think we would have seen this.
Yeah.
All we do is shoot and kill people.
And this is
in Fortnite.
based on the Fortress
do
of
some quests.
Solitude. So.
It's got to be for the hype of the Superman movie. Says my Wi-Fi is bad. I'm not using Wi-Fi, so stop that stupid shit. I see one person landing nearby. 2, 3. There's a team.
You here?
They are.
Oh.
Oh, and they moved Superman here too.
Wait.
And Hope.
Hopefully I can get down without killing myself.
Goober, I've got some minis for you.
I got some mini. Thank you. Thank you.
And Scotty, I got some minis for you.
If I could figure out how to get in.
It's on the bottom. Yeah, kind of keep going that
Yeah,
direction.
this open door.
Oh, where's my glasses? Jeez.
The storm.
Storm's moving.
Oh shit.
Oh, there's a car here.
Okay. I'm coming.
Yeah.
My fat butt in the car. Surprised I fit.
I'm a huge robot, and I'm surprised I fit.
I don't think you're as big as
Actually-
Big Max, though.
We're both robots, which is kind of funny.
Quest done. Oh, okay. Travel 100 meters in 5 seconds. Oh, you're Optimus Prime. I was too busy doing other stuff to notice.
That person you could turn into a car. Did you want to engage them?
Sure, whatever.
Well,
Let's go
yeah.
kill some people.
God, they're fighting the boss.
Got footsteps around me. Stupid bot.
You just need to pick it up on quest. Oh, storm. I was Etsy.
I still have the enhanced rifle if you need it, Scotty. To pick it up for him.
I should be okay. I guess we're going to pink.
Yeah, I need to consume a drink or food.
One moment.
Need to hit it, hit it. That's it. Did that count? No. I have to hit
That's
one of
right.
these. Have to hit it with the car?
We might be able to open up the vault.
We ran over one.
Oh, I don't know. It didn't pop up for me.
Yeah, okay, so
Who am I close to? Oh. Wait.
that was just inside. Opening the portal. I don't know what that did. Know that we probably can't talk to Hope again because she's in the storm.
There's that.
Oh. If you need to pick up the rifle, there it is.
Ooh. Oh, we should get going.
There's a car up ahead. Oh, and over there. Oh, it's cool. Oh. Can I hear him? Yes.
Laser hit him from here. Oh, they downed me.
They're coming.
Oh, they're coming up.
I downed them. They're probably gonna revive them too.
Yeah, we gotta go there. Oh my god, they knocked me down. Oh, and there's a car right there.
Grab the card, though.
I'm not gonna make it now.
Here. Yeah, make it.
No.
Here, take it.
Oh,
Oh, no. They're right. Oh, I should have left it on the floor for you. Here, take it.
just come and chill in the chat, Jacob. I don't have to play. If you're still here. Is that guy still falling in there?
Yeah. It doesn't do as much damage, but it's a 1 tick.
It should be a 2 tick. Hey, we got one twice. Maybe Baymax isn't the best because he's so red and bright.
Alright. I'll be back. I gotta go pick up my nephew.
Oh, okay. Oh, wrong shoes. Interesting. Interesting. Ugh. Where is...
So after 581 days, I have saved an average of So I've spent the last 19 months powering my home with solar panels and 2 Tesla Powerwall batteries. Would I do it again? Absolutely 100%. But how much money have I saved? And we're gonna find that out together. So going solar and adding battery storage is really not a one-size-fits-all type deal. But today I'm going to share my experience with you now that it's been 2 years since I initially started my process with getting solar and Tesla Powerwalls installed at my home here in Arizona. And I wanted this video to be more than just a product review based on really what the manufacturers say and what spec sheets will tell us. And for those of you that are new here, my name is Zach. I've been in the solar industry since 2015 and I love talking about solar, batteries, electric vehicles, and if that's something you enjoy as well, subscribe to the channel for more. I'd appreciate it. So should you do it? Should you make the investment into solar energy with battery storage? So rather giving you this sales pitch, I'm going to let you hear my story. Cover all of the
It's like a
system
bunch are
details,
going
things I've enjoyed, issues I've had,
Fortress.
why I chose this system, and of course,
Looks like it.
detailed savings and cost
At
breakdowns
least
over the past 12
two.
months. This is the third house that I
See
put
3
solar on,
people
but
in
it is
this
the
one, too.
first one I've installed with a battery system. We started the project just days after moving into our home in July of 2022. The process took about 5 months, mainly due to delays on the jurisdiction side of things.
One of them
with
is
getting
went
approvals.
towards the front
It's not
door.
uncommon for battery projects to take a little bit longer when getting approvals with both the jurisdiction and your utility. So we did receive approval around late November 2022, and I opted to have it added to the calendar for installation at the end of December. There was some electrical work needed for the system tie-in, and that required a power kill, which added a few weeks to the process. This power kill happened in mid-January, and then finally on February 16th, 2023, I received permission to operate and turn the system on. The home we moved into was a new build, so the energy estimates were a bit of a forecast. I went off of a forecasted energy consumption of about 17,000 kilowatt hours per year. So the size I opted for was a 10 kilowatt system with 2 Tesla Powerwall units. The panels were a 400 watt Q-Cells G10 Plus module. I've already reviewed this panel. You can find the video on my channel. I was between this and another panel that was significantly more premium, but I really didn't feel like spending the
2 shots
extra
from a
cost to
shotgun?
justify these large gains. The Powerwalls were a Powerwall Plus, which is just a Powerwall 2 with an inverter assembly on top, and then a second Powerwall 2. Power output on this is 10.8 kilowatts continuous, and the storage capacity was 27 kilowatt hours. Now, this was whole home backup with the exception of my EV charger that was installed, as well as the dryer. Everything else is backed up in a grid down scenario. I could have used the backup switch for this installation, but my utility does not allow that, so I was left using the traditional gateway with that backed up loads panel. It is a little bit more of an industrial installation to say the least when compared to the backup switch, but there really wasn't an issue for me. Now, I chose not to back up my EV charger specifically. It could have been backed up, however, at the time, Tesla didn't have the feature to curtail the EV charging in the event of a grid outage. So my concern was if I was charging the car, say at night, and the grid went down and I didn't know about it, the car would then drain my batteries, which is not ideal. Plus, we only had one EV at the time, so it didn't seem like a priority. Now, since we do have 2 electric vehicles, it would be a nice feature to have just in case of an extended power outage. Through a software update, this has all since been prevented, and all I need now is our installer, Icon Power, to come out, move the breaker to the backed up loads panel, and it's an easy fix. We also had some roof space limitations. The way our roof's oriented, we have northeast, northwest, and southwest. Southwest being the most ideal of
Good
course.
try.
This is the section we loaded up, and a 10 kilowatt system was about a
he had a
max
legendary.
fit for us. I could have opted for more panels in these other roof directions, and I have considered it, but we will see over time. Now, my projected forecasts had this 10 kilowatt system's annual generation at about 16,900 kilowatt hours per year, and I felt that paired with 2 Powerwalls, this would be a nice setup to meet our needs. And with 2 batteries, I really wanted that target offset to be right around 100%. And if you're not sure what system size you need, or if you're trying to compare quotes, feel free to reach out. I do consultative work. My info is in the description. So why did I opt for the Powerwalls? Why didn't I just get solar panels? There were a few key reasons I opted for this particular system, and monthly savings wasn't one of them. I knew I wasn't going to save money, especially with that second Powerwall. The utility I'm in specifically is Trico Electric here in Tucson, Arizona. They're a smaller cooperative, and their rate structure really isn't the most ideal when it comes to solar, especially when you're comparing them to other utilities here in the state. Examples of this less than ideal rate structure would be: 1, they have a really low buyback rate when it comes to solar energy at just just about 4 cents per kilowatt hour. 2, they currently do not have any time of use rate plans that batteries could really take advantage of. And 3, their retail cost of energy is a flat 15 to 16 cents per kilowatt hour out the door, so nothing insane. So with such a low buyback rate and not a lot of strategy when it comes to the rate structure, I knew I'd have to maximize self-consumption of my solar generated to really push for max grid independence. And when I say self-consumption, basically how much solar energy is consumed by myself. You really want that number to be as high as possible here. Additionally, I've always been somebody who really wants to be on the early adopter side of technology and innovation. I don't look at it as just an investment. I look at it as something that I consider a tool and a toy. How will it make my life better? Will I use it? And will I actually enjoy it? I love messing around with tech and seeing what it can do, what it can't do, and how it actually performs in the real world. And last, and probably the most obvious, being in the solar industry since 2015 and wanting to build a career in this space, I knew 100% that batteries were the future of our industry, and storage was going to be very important due to the constant regression in net billing and net metering policies, utility rates, and the whole EV movement that's going on. And I wanted to have that experience to show my prospective clients and people like you how this stuff actually
Excuse me.
performs, and if it makes sense for you to invest your own money into. I really just didn't understand how I could tell somebody else my solution works great and it's an awesome fit for you, but I don't believe in that solution enough to put it on my own roof. It just doesn't make sense. So let's dive into some things I've actually enjoyed about the Tesla Powerwall. First, the feeling of energy independence. It's just a cool concept to know that you're powering some of or all of your home and energy needs from a renewable power source. It changes the way that you see energy use, and by adding the battery, what I found is it really elevates the whole user experience. Now, it might not always be the best bet for your quickest payback period, but to me, there's more to a purchase than just this. I do think the Tesla app and the ecosystem's fantastic, and I've seen several notable software additions that's actually made the hardware better. It's easy to use, like Apple or Samsung, Google, whatever. I just feel like their stuff works, and it works really well. I'm also really excited for the future of VPP, virtual power plants, and bidirectional charging through Tesla's Power Share feature. As a consumer, these are all going to be things that you really can't plan on. You're just trusting in Tesla's ability to innovate. The last thing I will note is if you like data tracking like me, it's really great to see how accurate their app is when it's compared to utility level metering. They were over 99% accurate for my data tests, and knowing I'm getting accurate real-time data within not only my app,
definitely
but
2
other apps
teams,
like
3
Net
teams
Zero
here.
just take the idea of going solar to another level. You're able to get a much better idea of what energy loads in your house pull more power and how much energy they actually consume. I think this makes you more conscious, almost like an energy budgeting tool. You have a better grasp of how much energy you're pulling. Now, as far as grid outages, I've had a few over the 19 months, with the longest being 2 hours. Not really
Kind of a bad place to drop. There was just a story there, but
it's like insurance. You don't
Well, we could always drop
it's
to the
there to
north
have
and
just
then
in
get
case
to
you
there
need it.
afterwards.
Now, obviously, nothing is ever
Yeah, we
perfect.
could do
Let's
that.
talk about the main issues that I have run into. First, right out of the gate, my system had terrible metering issues. It would measure my home consumption, like my AC unit, the dryer, EV, all at a 2x multiplier. Now, how would somebody know what this looks like? You try running a load where you know the wattage or the demand, and if your app doesn't show accurate data, then you know something's off. The easy one for me was my EV. So the EV, for example, would max charge according to the app at 23 kilowatts, which is exactly double of its standard max charge rate, which is 11.5 kilowatts. So I called this out right off the bat. We thought it was a CT issue of some sort, which is somewhat common. And over the next couple of weeks, we tried troubleshooting and working with Tesla to really figure it out. There were over 5 truck rolls and site visits to get it done. The battery physically was functioning as it should, but it would not meter the data properly. It was really disappointing to have this new hardware, and nothing was reporting right. The solar generation was fine. It was strictly the home energy consumption data. Finally, Tesla decided to replace the battery, and Icon Power, my installer, they pulled one from backstock and had it replaced just 2 days later. So while it was a minor inconvenience, it wasn't anyone's fault. This solved my problem immediately, and it was no added cost to me, of course. The other issue I had was a firmware issue within the inverter assembly within the Powerwall Plus at about the 4-month mark. My system's generation just flatlined one day, which is always a concern midsummer. I logged into the gateway, saw some errors, tried cycling the inverter, resetting the batteries, nothing. Our team had Tesla push a firmware update, and by some black magic, it worked. The system was offline for probably a week or two during that troubleshooting process, and it did require
Go
another
to
site
Pump
visit
Power,
for my
try
car.
there.
This was in June
I didn't head towards
2023,
it.
and since then, it's been 100% smooth sailing, and I expect and hope that trend will stay the same.
We can still
Now
go
let's
north
talk
of
about
that
how the
river.
system is actually performed.
If you see a lot of people going to the
I'm
power
making my
plant.
energy graphs here and go through some data points one by one. So the date range I'm going to cover goes through September 1st of 2023, and it ends in August 31st of this year, 2024. Also, all of these numbers are coming from the Tesla app, but they were cross-referenced with my utility readings as well. Like I mentioned earlier, Tesla's accuracy was over 99%, which I found pretty impressive. First, I'm going to go ahead and review the system's generation over these last 12 months. The system was projected to generate about 16,900 kilowatt hours, and
I
it
don't think
exceeded
they
that
even see
total with
anybody at the academy
17,600 kilowatt hours actually generated. So about a 4% gain, which is rather common in southern Arizona. So that's a thumbs up for sure. Keep in mind too, Tesla's app will round to the nearest 100. You can use an app like Net Zero for more granular data, but they don't offer a custom date range like I needed, so I was limited to Tesla's data just for simplicity. Now the batteries performed as expected with their output and their capacity. Net Zero's diagnostics have me at a 0% degradation. Based on my day-to-day use, I can discharge a full 27 kilowatt hours if needed, and I can output that continuous 10.8 kilowatts as advertised. Over these past 12 months, my batteries have charged 6,566 kilowatt hours, and they've discharged 5,827. That gap between the two do factor the round-trip efficiency of the battery and the losses that you will see in an AC coupled design like we have here. That's completely normal here, and even better than advertised given the conditions when it comes to temperature and charge speed. Tesla quotes a 90% round-trip efficiency under these specific conditions, and this is sitting at 89% under what I would consider more intense conditions. So I'd say I'm pretty pleased here as well. Now moving into grid activity, I imported 13,800 kilowatt hours from the utility, and I exported or sold back 3,300 kilowatt hours for that generation to exported ratio is fantastic with an over 80% self-consumption of my solar generation. However, with the imported energy and the remaining electric bill is where things take a turn. When I made my initial forecast, we only had one EV. It was a Tesla Model 3. But then we added a Tesla Model Y as our daily driver, and that accounted for nearly 6,000 kilowatt hours of home energy demand from that date range. My Model 3 accounted for about 4,200 kilowatt hours of home charging as well. So between these two EVs alone, I added over 10,000 kilowatt hours of energy consumption during that time. To be fair, even though they did increase my electric bill, they created over $2,000 in fuel savings. For any EV owners out there, you know that energy demand of electric vehicles is very hard to offset with solar and batteries alone, which is kind of ironic. The amount of power at a consistent rate that they pull, it just doesn't make this an easy balance. For example, I'd deplete my two Powerwalls, which is 27 kilowatt hours, within 3 hours if my vehicle was charging at full speed. My total home consumption during this range was 21,900 kilowatt hours plus an additional 5,575 kilowatt hours for the electric vehicle. Only my Model Y's energy stats do show here, and this feature didn't roll out until October, so it's a little off on the ratio. All that matters, this number is 27,476 kilowatt hours for the final tally of my home's consumption. So to recap, generation was good at 4% more. Powerwall's charge and discharge patterns as well as their overall performance was also good. Degradation is 0%. Grid activity and overall home consumption was a bit higher than hoped, but expected given all the circumstances. The hardware, the app, and the overall performance gets a big A+ here, and really I have nothing to complain about. So let's go with how much I paid for this system. We're going to talk through a bunch of different numbers, so I broke everything down to round numbers to keep this easy. So after 581 days, I have saved an average of I've actually paid more. So this 10 kilowatt system, 2 Tesla Powerwalls, Tesla EV charger, and all related work at a price tag of just under $50,000. $4,000.
That one was down.
The system does come with a
partners around here
30% tax
somewhere.
credit, which
No,
would have
no,
been just under
I downed him and then I
$15,000.
killed the one
And the
near
state of
the-
Arizona
near
was
the
kind enough to
downer.
throw a $1,000 state tax credit my way. I'm sure you can find quotes for less or for more for a similarly
Pretty
spec
sure it was all
system
three of
today.
them.
If you do feel an installer is
take
worth
this
more,
one.
I
Should be
wouldn't
two.
get cheap here when
They're-
talking
we're in
about a
duos.
project that combines both technology and construction. I would check their track record and get some references if you're unsure. But don't overpay either
Unless
if
I
they
missed
don't
something.
add value. Just because they charge more doesn't mean they offer
Oh,
higher
we need to go
quality
there.
by default. The scope of each
That's
project
Superman's
will be
thing.
different when you factor in your electrical, your roof, financing type, and other specifics. My financing was on a 20-year term, which ended up being about $200 per month or $2,400 for the entire year. You have to remember what I mentioned earlier. My utility isn't the most expensive. They don't have any time of use rate plans, and they have a low buyback rate for the excess solar that you generate. Those of you from California or Hawaii are probably laughing at the rates that we pay out here, but our major utilities like APS, SRP, and TEP can get pretty expensive with their
Oh, they've
demand
already.
charges. So
No, I
unless
don't
you're
think
in
they
my
have
utility
claimed it yet.
or a utility very similar to this, don't worry, your savings won't be the same. Your projected energy stats could be pretty similar, but your savings potential is very much utility dependent. Now, my utilities still billed me about $1,760 over this time frame, even with the solar and the power walls. No, my utility bill was not zero. Before the Model Y was added to the mix, I did see a $39 bill and a $50 bill. Considering our base
Good luck,
fees for this
Scotty.
utility alone are about $27 a month, but these were spring bills, so it's a bit of an outlier. So between my solar financing cost of $2,400 for the year and my utility cost of $1,760 for the year, that gives me a
And then
total
they
cost
swarmed
of
us.
$4,160 for everything.
So we did beat
for
Superman,
that
so-
year. It's also important to note that this is the cost of my vehicle fuel as well, minus supercharging,
We
but
did?
that's not the point of this video. But had
Yeah.
I not added this system, I would have paid $4,120 annually to my utility company. So had I done nothing, I would have actually paid less. So my solar and Powerwall system cost me $40 more for the year, which ends up being just about 11 cents per day. And to me, when I looked at the advantages of installing a system like this at my home, savings really just meant affordability. I know I can afford 11 cents a day, and I know these dollars add up, but I
Ooh,
also know the
cool
cost of
night.
energy will eventually go up and rates will continue to change. I certainly pay for things right now that cost more than $40 a year and serve far less value to me each and every day. I know spending that little extra was worth it for what I wanted to gain out of my system. It was never about squeezing every drop of savings. I likely would have passed on the second battery and probably scaled my solar sizing back a little bit to more of like a daytime partial offset styled system, probably like a 7 kilowatt with one Powerwall Plus. I think that would work a little bit better with my utility for overall savings. But what about you? Does this make sense for you? If you're looking at it primarily from a financial lens, the ability to save money is absolutely there, but it is heavily dependent on your utility, so I can't answer that question for everyone. I can only share my experiences through
Oof.
I chopped off half of my hair. There's this exercise I'm learning recently. It feels so good. Looks really ugly, but I want to show you.
Oh god, maybe this was a bad area to go.
No, we can adapt. We can switch back and go here.
Sounds good.
Because we still got to go to the Superhero Academy. And there's a car here.
Want to film a short video of the anime mobility poses. So you looked at this video, you're way too far. So I'm gonna pick some poses that I'd be able to do at the beginner version. I actually practice a lot of mobility because I'm not that flexible. I try to be as flexible as I can.
Oh, there's a giant slurp tank here.
I'm on my way.
Well, like all our joints are set. My sister is definitely way more flexible than me. I think it's definitely genetics. I got that part of the gene from my mom, and she. But I'm gonna try to stay flexible. You know the video that I shared before, like the short video of a yoga village, like all the grannies that were so flexible. They practiced yoga for years. So what's my excuse?
Oh, there's someone at the thingy.
I recently started to rewatch the anime. That time I got the informative assistant. Super cute and comforting to watch.
Let's. That was another one? Oh.
No, it was the guy that killed you, killed me. I just didn't expect like that pistol so much.
My glutes and hammies are absolutely destroyed from all those Bulgarians and RDLs 2 days ago, and I'm just trying to foam roll these hamstrings before squats. But they're not just sore. I feel like they're cramping, and I was low-key considered skipping, but I figured I should warm up and see how it feels. And now I'm just warming up like usual, and I actually shared my leg day warm-up routine in my last video. It's towards the end, and if you want to check it out.
Track this shotgun damage quest. More about everything else later, I guess. Is that really coming up? It is. That's alright. Got my bit rate steady. That's interesting.
I used gochujang this time, which is Korean hot sauce. And of course, miso here, and the chicken breast is cooked with air fryer.
We could try again for Supernova if you wanted
It's
to.
really tender.
No, it's alright. We'll just we try this then. Krypton
Also, in my
factor.
hometown, we eat raw
Sure.
cabbage, and we like to eat raw vegetables, lettuce. Also,
I haven't been there yet. It's not great, but I just haven't
with
been there.
dipping sauce, and the dipping sauce is made of soybean sauce. It's actually really good. Eating some potato chips.
Oh man, everywhere I want to go, there's like tons of people.
Going to be heading for Fortnite today. I'm wearing this crop top. This is going to be the fit. Some grapes for the snack.
Stole someone's crown.
Oh, that was a player?
Yeah, he looked like Batman, so I thought he was a bot until he like dropped to his knees.
Wow. Long ways away.
You want that pistol? The SMG?
I've got a handgun. Yeah, we could try for it, but I don't know if
I'm
we'll
going
get
to
there
be
in
hitting
time.
legs today, and I'm going to a new gym.
Ooh, nice hard.
Yeah, it's from when the Metallica thing came out. Oh shoot.
Different. You just switch
Someone's
each
already got it.
hands, and those are just workouts
That's
based on
Oh, did you hear that
focus on compound lifts.
Ozzy
I
Osbourne's
showed
band
so
did their final show?
all of them were whole here.
Nope.
It worked so
Yeah, he's
well.
no longer
All the same things
permanently retired now.
in this gym I'm at now doesn't have a
It was like
sport.
Metallica,
And honestly, I really
Led
missed
Zeppelin, a
my
bunch of
gym. It was so
classic
challenging.
people.
Unlike most sleep gym that offer some persistence help, that one gave you nothing. It was even tougher because it wasn't smooth at all, and it was torture. But I kind of loved it.
The thing is, it seems to be they might have increased the chance of getting Superman's call, but it's like Doom or that upgrade.
Yeah, I could see that. Just reskin it, place it somewhere else.
Supposedly you can fly and you have heat vision.
Interesting.
I got a new haircut, which chopped off half of my hair. Now a lot of you probably can tell the difference because I used to just cut my hair in my shorts, but it was actually right here, so I actually cut off this much. For this upper body day, I'm focusing on chest and shoulders. I kind of changed up my workout plan, and I started doing bench press, I think 2 weeks ago. Still not training for powerlifting, but I'm just doing it for fun, and I have so much fun. And this is the fit. I feel like whenever my hips are tight, I cannot function well.
It went like
Even
around the
walking
hill
up the
over there.
stairs, I feel like I can't even lift my leg. Breathe in when going down, and breathe out and come up. Also, there's this exercise that I learned recently. It feels so good. I mean, it's sore, but it feels so good afterwards. It looks really ugly,
You
but I
take
want
the
to show
car.
you. With your hands, just like this. Put it on your head. And put your elbow inside the thigh. You should feel a nice stretch on the shoulders and the back. You can't do both arms at the same time. You just
push it in more slowly. And just listen to how your body feels. You should feel a nice stretch, but it should be a little bit sore. I've been starting doing this for a month, I think, and it's been feeling so much better than before. The first time that I did this, my left shoulder was really painful. If I don't do my warm-up properly, especially for my upper body day, because I injured my left shoulder, I couldn't even lift my left shoulder up. It was last year, and it really affected my upper body training. But then when I'm getting recovered, I just started to do a lot of warm-ups, get my shoulder joint start moving, and it totally changed my workout. Like before, I was sweating in the middle of the workout. I feel so much pain in my shoulder. I couldn't finish the workout. And now I just feel so much better. I could actually add more weight on my upper body now. So I'm really happy now. I've been listening to Naruto's openings lately, and it's so good. The first anime that I watched, maybe not the first, but the first that I could remember is Naruto. I remember when I was in elementary school, and me and my sister bought the VCDs, watched Naruto together. Back then, it was my favorite anime. I only started watching One Piece when I was in high school, actually, but I was definitely a One Piece fan
At least two
when
above
I
us.
was in high school.
Yeah, the storm's
But
coming.
like One Piece is kind of hard to start at. Once you are a few episodes in, you're hooked up. That's how I felt.
Oh yeah, they're behind us. Yeah, they went up to the island. Welcome back.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Going well.
How ya doing?
Okay. And you?
How's Fortnite?
It's alright.
Are you winning?
Sort of.
Oh, that's good.
Behind the rock.
Alright, returning up to you.
killed his buddy. He wasn't too happy.
Probably should get moving because we have the storm right behind us. We'll be stuck between the storm and the island.
Wanna join us? Behind us.
I have no health left.
Oh, that's good.
Meet Pirate Software, aka Jason Thor Hall, a 37-year-old best known for blowing up in the YouTube algorithm in late 2023 due to posting bucket loads of YouTube shorts and live streaming 10+ hours a day almost every single day. He's known for portraying himself as this deep-voiced, super smart guy who worked as a game dev at Blizzard for 7 years, and even has a soft side running a ferret sanctuary in his own home for the betterment of the animals' lives. This portrayal as a knowledgeable, nice guy who works in the gaming industry alongside blowing up in the streaming sphere would get him connections to streamer Ludwig as he would become the director of strategy of Off-Brand Games in summer 2024. And overall, things seem to be heading in a good direction for the guy. However, during one faithful streaming day, Jason would find himself in a bit of a sticky situation, to put it lightly. A situation that would open up a rabbit hole that shows a controversial history dating back almost 2 decades ago as of this video, and a controversial history that continues to build more and more with every passing day. Welcome to OnlyFans, a World of Warcraft guild made up by the biggest of the big in the streaming world to play the game and make content together. The biggest kicker of this guild is that it's a hardcore variant of the game, similar to Minecraft Hardcore, where if you die, you lose your character and have to start up a brand new one, with it taking upwards of 200+ hours just to level up your character to the max. This made dungeons and raids a whole lot more important and tense both for the streamer and the viewers watching, and so given this extra attention plus the star power of the biggest streamers in the world all working together, it was a recipe for success on that side of the internet. Jason was one of the many members of this guild and would of course play the game because it's easy views and a way to network with other streamers and make connections and such. He was doing alright for himself, but that would all change on January 12th, 2025, as during a dungeon raid after things got a bit hairy, someone would make a call to run away, Jason would indeed do so, but they would try to salvage it as he would continue to run away before 2 members died.
What's the character
The issue here
behind
is
your
that despite
head,
the call to
Scotty?
run, everyone else
It's
would
a
be mostly
Bleach
backing up and still
character.
trying to salvage the play and help
Oh,
others,
okay.
whereas Jason took off
Yeah,
completely,
the main
and most importantly out of
character
all of it,
turns into
he had
this,
enough time to come back and try to save his teammates. This is what is called roaching out in the WoW community,
That's the
and it didn't
word.
help that as Jason was arguing about how he didn't have enough mana to save him, he would hover his mouse over the mana gem item for a
Turns into
split
a
second before
badass.
choosing not to use it, as well as having a robe item that gives him mana back on use, and on top of that would also use an ability to waste mana to make it seem as if he had no chance to help save him when they look in the corner at his stats. This is clearly a roach shot and there ain't other way around it. Jason could have tried to help save him and he chose not to because he was scared of losing his character. It's clearly an L on his part, but instead of letting the other guild members explain to him how he roached out and let 2 people die in the process, he would instead rage quit the Discord call and act as if they're all the wrong ones, when in fact, he was the wrong one the entire time.
What do you want, man?
Let me say it again.
He already said his piece.
Pirates.
Go on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I want to speak to him because I didn't speak to him correctly. I said it again. We all did mistakes, bro. Like I didn't say. We are just blaming you. It's about the zero accountability is what makes us so mad.
There's no zero accountability, dude. Everyone can do something good. But when you open up and you yell over another person
listen,
like you were doing
earlier. Speak?
Nah, I'm good. See ya. I'm not doing that shit again with him. Nah, he did it the first time. I'm not doing it a second one. Not interested.
Now, I can understand someone getting mad in a heated moment when it feels like everybody's
gonna come play some Fortnite?
And most times, people will chill out, think it over the night, and come to the conclusion that they were indeed the one who screwed up the play. However, Jason isn't like most people here, as due to his 7 years working at Blizzard, he knows the game better than anyone else around him and would start to ban people saying the word mana in his chat, with the term mana gem in specific leading to a permaban for making fun of him.
It was 2,975 bans and 1,357 bans on process, and Kronos was told to kill himself 20 times.
That's right. Almost 3,000 people were banned in his chat simply for making fun of the guy, and it wasn't even anything heinous or mean. It was simple clowning that any other streamer has been through 1,000 times already. However, people could see that Jason here reacted very poorly to being made fun of, and so that alongside his holier-than-thou know-it-all attitude, and very quickly he would start to become a piece of online content in the gaming sphere as people started to realize he's kinda just a straight-up asshole. Jason would get his own version of a classic WoW Chinese copy pasta made making fun of him, and would also permaban people for pushing it in the chat, and other OnlyFans guild members themselves would start to clown on him and make fun of him for leaving his teammates behind. It was pretty funny because at the end of the day, all he did was screw up a play and not accept responsibility for it, but because he was continuing to fail to accept that it was his fault and he was being very antagonistic towards anybody who made small jokes about him, it started to become a bigger issue than it initially seemed. As the clowning would continue on and people would even add his face to the WoW wiki entry for Roach, he would top the charts with a livestream fail subreddit as clip after clip of him roaching out and other streamers reacting to him roaching out would be posted, showing that this news was going nuclear in the gaming sphere. More interestingly, almost every single streamer talking about Jason will all start to say why they believe he's full of shit and not even try to defend him, something that is extremely odd, as if there's one thing that's known about the streamer world, it's that it's virtually impossible to get into any controversy if other big streamers are backing you up. Except in this case, not a single person was backing him up except Asmongold, but when it's 2 people versus 20 plus in an online sector that majorly relies on the populace opinion for how long and far things will go, it was clear that a lot of people didn't like him and only had him around because he was a big figure and therefore good networking connections. Soda Poppin', the owner of OnlyFans, would even side against him, saying how Jason propping himself up as the most important mage of the guild was just his ego speaking and that he should take some responsibility for how things went down in that raid instead of crying about being made fun of online. Hell, even another clip of him just being a pompous, smug asshole to a new player the game called Lucari would be found, showing that Jason clearly isn't the nice guy he portrays himself as, but someone who punches down in order to prop himself up higher than those around him, something that perfectly lines up with how he would always portray himself as the smartest guy in the room at any moment he can.
You basically have to evo kid to get your mana back for the next poll.
Remind me, I'm sorry, I don't play the game, so I forgot. If you remind me, I can help.
Yeah, it's too bad I'm the only mage in the party, right? Well, only someone else would cast Arcane.
Can't really keep wishing for things that just aren't here, though.
That's true. That's true. Can't wish for the rogue. Can't wish for another mage to cast Arcane.
Yeah.
Brother, may I have some oats? Oh, since we have 2 mages, we could probably poly the ads.
Wait, we have 2 mages. Oh, man.
Yeah, I can poly.
Here I've been the only one casting Arcane. Incredible.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know, obviously, everyone knows that people dying in a video game isn't a big deal at all. It's the way Jason has been treating things and his general asshole nature being ramped up to 11 here. It doesn't help that in his eventual response a day later, he only had one part where he made any sort of apology, in which he says that everyone made mistakes despite that being untrue, as he had plenty of time to come back and try and save his teammates. Also throwing in how he's an ex-Blizzard employee in there, because of course he would, to try and make it seem like he knows what he's talking about. The best part to the response is the next part after, however, in which I'm just going to read it out because of how absurd it is. To pin that on a single person is absurd at best, and if you're calling for death and cancellation over it, you're too invested in this content in a very unhealthy way. If you're a creator engaging in this kind of behavior, then eventually your content wave will end, but the relationships you've sullied will be permanent. I hope it was worth it for you. That's right. Instead of Jason just taking the L, he tries to shift partial blame onto his teammates and told every creator who talked about this stuff that he's cutting them off for good for engaging in this current content wave. He's so butthurt people are making fun of him that he's literally cutting off anybody who was talking
Hit him
about
a
it in a
few
negative
times,
way.
but not
And the
enough.
immense insecure egotism going on here is hilarious, as all he had to do again was take the L and then he roached out. Instead, he would double down and pretend everyone is out to get him despite the criticism he was getting being 100% deserved. Jason would continue to double down and be an asshole as he made it clear he wasn't going to admit he roached out, and in this clip I'm about to play, he rants how those cannibalizing him will eventually have it happen to them one day, still not realizing that he's the asshole here and believes everybody else is instead.
And for all the content creators who are out there trying to cannibalize me to boost their numbers for a little while, that may work for now. But in the future, no one's going to want to do anything with you other than other people who also want to cannibalize you.
Crypto
You're gonna surround
killer.
yourself with assholes. That's going to be on you, bud. That's shitty for you, to be honest with you. That's okay. Straight up. So have your minute. Have fun.
It gets funnier as he would admit in the stream that he didn't even want to go back to help to begin with, as he was fully on his roach shit by the time he ran. And people even start to clown at him about how he uses a voice changer to have a deeper voice. Oh yeah, I was saving this for later in the video, but Jason here has a completely different voice when speaking compared to streaming. Just take a look at the 3 clips I'm about to play.
It's actually been amazing. It's our first time out here at Denver Comic Con, and there's so many people, and they love the game, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's correct. Game development's finally a category on Twitch, and now it's up here at the streamer awards. We acquired it.
I'm going to put the camera on you when you stream.
It's very obvious that he's at least partially insecure about his voice, as people figured out that he uses filters, and even though he said that somehow magically dropped when he was 33, I find it hilarious that the dude who calls himself up as this high-minded person has to use filters to make his voice sound angry so people won't make fun of him. I also believe he does this with his deeper voice that to subconsciously attract people more. For example, Elizabeth Holmes. And he's using this as a way to get more audience members, as that's just how human nature works. People with deeper voices tend to grow better in general spaces like this. I think he trained himself to talk deeper in general alongside having some filters on stream. And anyone who doesn't believe this is either ignorant or running defense for their favorite streamer. And even though this doesn't really
Dropped a
matter in
lot
the
of
grand scheme of
jokes.
things, given he's an asshole yet insecure about his voice, I just find it hilarious. As the days progressed, Jason would continue to get clowned up by memes and by random streamers playing WoW, referring to how he took zero accountability for his actions. And during another stream, he'll go on to say that he's documenting and reporting not only all the random people harassing him, which is understandable, but the very streamers who are simply covering the situation on their channels and giving their opinions on the matter. This means that if you're one of those very streamers watching this video right now and you called him a roach or made fun of his normal high-pitched voice on stream, Blizzard will take his reports more serious than any others, because if you remember, Jason worked there for 7 years and they totally care about his stuff more so than anything else going on in the WoW community. In fact, Jason is such a serious man who can't even take a joke that he banned someone for simply making a roach joke to him on stream.
Oh, okay. One sec.
Was it?
Just delete it.
Like, this ain't even bad. It's funny. There's no harassment or nothing going on, but Jason is so insecure about being made fun of that he couldn't even let that one slide despite the guy clearly getting him good. He would also update people and inform them, saying that he's banned over 6,000 accounts so far, and also says that big content creators are organizing hate raids against him despite this being a complete lie, showing that he's going completely scorched earth on any content creator who dared speak ill of his name and was trying to use his influence at Blizzard to get them banned simply for making fun of him. This wouldn't bode well for the man, as Jason would end up getting kicked out of OnlyFans on the morning of January 15th, with Soda Poppin confirming as such and saying it was because of him quadrupling down on not admitting he messed up. But I'm sure seeing him brag about using his 7-year working connection to Blizzard to get streamers who are mean to him banned had something to do with it as well. Jason would respond clearly seething about the decision they made to kick him from the group, and other streamers who've talked about him said they started to get blocked by him on Twitter.
Is anyone else blocked from Pirate on Twitter?
I'm not gonna lie, Ozzy.
How do you know?
You're not blocked.
Yeah, I'm blocked, bro.
The news was spreading around the gaming sphere at such an insanely fast rate that not only were WoW players clowning on him, so were League of Legends pro commentators, showing that just in a matter of 3 days he had become one of the quickest laughingstocks in the gaming industry in record time.
Was Renato just completely winning the game alone?
But he is the last man there, kind of like a mage blinking out of the dungeon. He will survive, but the rest of his team not there.
Jason would eventually put out a brand new response, again trying to say that everyone made mistakes and it was just him. He also talks about how he's banned thousands of people because a lot of them were sending harassing messages. And yeah, there were clearly a handful of people sending some foul shit his way, no doubt. The thing here is that he still fails to understand by this point it wasn't an issue on him roaching. Everybody can see that except himself, no matter how hard he tried to convince people otherwise. It was the fact his egotistical attitude was on full display and people from all corners of the internet were realizing that he's a massive asshole. Top that with hiding his real voice. And it was obvious his act of trying to prop himself as the smartest person in the room was starting to fall apart very quickly in front of him. People would bring up that Lucari clip from earlier of him just bullying the guy, and Jason would try to play it off as it was just light ribbing, when for anybody who's seen it, it was very clearly not light ribbing as Lucari wasn't playing into it and was clearly annoyed with his responses. Jason simply just didn't care. Lucari even had his own thing to say about everything going on, saying that Jason always gives off the vibe that he's better than you and that he needs to feel that he's the best person in the room.
Because he has like this high and mighty attitude like he's better than you.
It was a mystic.
Remember he's like talking down to me in that dungeon in SM? You remember that? You just remember that shit? Why do you play mage when you don't like support the team and make water and buff people? Bitch, I'm new. I fucking didn't realize the buff ran out, pussy. And then fucking fast forward 2 months later, this nigga doesn't even know how to press Frost Nova. Fuck yourself, bitch. I'm gonna talk my shit.
Got something that'll mark
Obviously,
him
as we
if they
can
attack.
see, Jason here has a lack of self-awareness and is generally an asshole. If there's
You
one
need,
thing I learned
bullets
throughout my
back?
time making content online, is that there's one thing that people hate more
The
than
bullets you
anything,
dropped.
and that's assholes.
No,
The
it's
way he
alright.
responded to this entire thing going down made it clear that he's
I'm
not
almost
used to
full
taking
anyways.
accountability for his actions and instead pushes the blame onto others or something else in whatever way he can, even if it becomes delusional. Now, even though the World of Warcraft arc was over by this point as he would announce he was quitting the game entirely, people were still interested in the man, as after all, he's a fully grown 37-year-old who for the last 2 years has clearly been assimilated into the mainstream streamer landscape through his connections, hence him working with Ludwig that I mentioned earlier. This is what got me interested personally, as while I've had hard times caring about stuff such as a bad video game moment, all this about Jason kept drawing me in, and the stuff I found out about him paints a picture of someone who, let's just say, has been acting this type of way for a very, very long time. Meet Maldavius Figtree, Jason's old ferret furry persona that he used to go by during his time playing Second Life way back in the mid-2000s. He started playing the game on May 7, 2006 when he was just 18 years old, and months later on September 16th would start up Darksphere Creations in order to create furry skins for people to wear in the game alongside his accomplice wingless Amoto. The skins are nothing interesting, just stuff to sell to make money in the game. As for those that don't know, people put real money into Second Life, and making real money in the game is a very common thing that players do. In the details, he would be listed as a programmer rather than an artist, and so he and everyone who worked with him will make their cash selling these skins in the game as everyone wants to make money. Jason's reputation in the furry community seemed to be normal, as in the May 25th, 2007 publishing of a Second Life magazine called the Ava Star, he would have a short interview about the various things he does in the game outside of running Darksphere. He even had an entry on the furry site Wiki for talking about him, showing that he was at least a known figure back in the furry fandom when it wasn't nearly as popular online as it is today. However, things would get hairy that upcoming summer, but before we get into that, we must first talk about what led to it to begin with. Now, I actually went over this entire arc in my video talking about a very infamous Second Life trolling group called Justice League Unlimited and Jason's time with the group, so if you want the entire context, go check out that video. To make a long story short here, Jason was a moderator of Woodbury but was also part of Justice League Unlimited, and the mods decided they wanted to tear things down and start over. Jason did some trolling and trashed the place up before they tore it down, but the developers of Second Life Linden Labs would delete the place entirely 2 weeks later, meaning they ruined the plan to start anew. Jason also got kicked out of Justice League Unlimited for this as well because they found out he's a troll himself, but again, if you want the full story, go check out that video. The point is, Jason wasn't some evil and heinous person while playing Second Life. All the higher-ups at Woodbury already planned to tear it down and restart. Jason just decided to do some trolling before Linden Labs ruined the momentum by deleting the place entirely. Of course, his trolling nature would gain him a lot of enemies and a general disdain from the Second Life community. But given his attitude as seen by the Managem incident, it was basically like history repeating itself. This confirms to me that he just doesn't want people talking about his past life and has gone as far as to falsely take down multiple videos talking about it. Oh yeah, forgot to mention earlier, Jason has falsely taken down multiple videos on YouTube talking about him in his past way before this wild stuff started, and the one thing they all have in common is they talk about his time playing Second Life. I honestly don't know what the reason behind taking the videos down is. The best I can assume is he finds it creepy that people are looking so far into the past about him, but it's not like this was private. This was all in a public video game and I managed to figure out he wasn't some evil player, but someone who did end up getting a negative reputation after the Woodbury incident, so take that how you will. There was another notable thing that went down during his time playing Second Life. As on January 20th, 2008, it would come out that Jason fired Wingless Emoto from Darksphere Creations while they were asleep, with the word spreading around Second Life as skin vendors started to delist anything from Darksphere in solidarity for Wingless as Jason was still making money from their work. However, in the comments on an article talking about the situation, it seems that Jason himself would drop chat messages he had with Wingless leading up to this, with them reading out as him getting upset they weren't taking their job seriously just 2 days ago on the 18th. However, another random user would drop more chat messages dated after the firing when talking to other Darksphere members, in which at the very bottom there, Jason would say that Wingless was underage and he found this out because he met up with them in real life, with that also being part of the reason why he
my
fired them.
keyboard.
This story would make its way to his current audience almost a decade and a half later in August 2024, in which Jason would respond and say that when he was 19, he met up with Wingless and Moto at 17, but that they didn't go down on each other or anything like that. He was actually 20 at the time, but given how long ago this was, I can chalk it up to misremembering. What's interesting is that he notably says Wingless wasn't fired but rather quit, saying that tabloids do what tabloids do to try and make him look bad. However, by confirming that he indeed met up with Wingless in real life, he confirms the messages are real, and indirectly confirms that he indeed fired them because of being lazy and because they weren't playing. I have no idea why he lied about this, as it was very easy to prove wrong here. Either way, he fired them when they were asleep, and the whole meeting up stuff is nothing of interest, as I'm willing to bet if he knew Wingless's true age, he probably wouldn't have met up with him because people try to twist this against him, knowing how people on the internet are lying. Where things get weird is that Jason has confirmed that he and Wingless made up years later and are cool now, and Wingless has gone on to say to others hitting them up about the story that they actually quit the company and wasn't fired. The thing that bugs me about this is, again, confirming he made up with them, he confirms those chat messages are real, and that indirectly confirms the very first message where he said he fired them was real. I very highly doubt the person who posted the messages had only one lie while the rest were true, as that wouldn't make any sense. So now things are stuck here in an odd spot. If you ask me personally, I think Wingless and Moto is just trying to have their friends back, given they're cool with each other now and are lying about quitting, but I can't really go beyond just my personal belief on how I think things truly went down. I don't think we'll ever get down to the real truth on this one, however, so all I can do here is just move right on ahead on this one. Something that's worth noting, however, is that in the same comments where the chat logs are dropped, there are a multitude of people trashing on Jason and saying a whole bunch of nasty things about him, including references to being a member of Justice League Unlimited. I won't be sharing them in this video, as while they certainly paint him in an extremely bad light, it's all strictly hearsay, and I don't like to promote negative hearsay on a channel like that. However, seeing just how many people are saying how bad of a person he was at the very least showed to me that his reputation in the game wasn't exactly a good one by the time this news dropped. Either way, it seemed that Jason was done with the furry fandom by November 2012, as that very month he would ask to get his wiki fur wiped, and since then it's been a blank page with no way of adding any new info to it. It seemed that he was now ready to move on to brighter pastures, and so as the years would go on, he would get involved in his own personal projects and life stuff that we won't be getting into right now. What we will get into is another notable moment in his gaming life, one that has a lot more going on as well. Now, Jason here was an active EVE Online player back during the late 2000s as well, starting up his account on November 12, 2007 when he was just 20 years old and simply going by the name of Maldavies. He was an active player throughout the years and would join various groups as he grew in the game and became more and more known to the other players surrounding it. However, it was on June 22nd, 2020 where he would create his own group called the Strybog Collide, where things started to ramp up on his end, and the story surrounding his downfall playing the game is nothing short of fascinating. To make a long story short, in October 2020, the developers CCP Games would add a new area in the game called Pochvin, inhabited by a faction called the Triglavians, in which Jason was a part of when he created Strybog. Anybody who was in the area before Pochvin was now stuck in it, as when it launched, the gate network to enter and leave the place was completely broken, and so for the next 5 days, players within will learn how things worked in this new part of the game. The gates would eventually be fixed, but it would still be hard for people to enter as they needed a certain standing level of the Triglavians to use them. On top of that, Pochvin was a giant boring mess when it launched, as there were multiple bugs throughout and nothing to do. In fact, one of the bugs would be where people would run a raid called Operation Flashpoint, but when they would finish, it would get negative reputation points, and therefore it would be harder to interact with the NPC network within the game, basically punishing players for completing one of the only fun things to do in the area. To make matters even worse, a new tactic called seagulling would be discovered, in which during a raid a random person could fly in, simply tag an NPC with damage, and then go run and hide and still get the payout when the real team finishes. The reason this was an issue was because payouts split depending on how many people were in the raid, meaning that if there was a raid team of 10 people and the payout was 10 million of the in-game currency called ISK, they would get 1 million ISK each. However, because random people would show up, tag an NPC and hide, they would basically steal all that hard-earned money using this cheap tactic. This made Parchment not only hard to enter, but not even worth the time as it was already born and everything surrounding the fun things to do were either bugged or could be sequeled by lazy players. However, because nobody would bother with the place, those who were already in Parchment, such as Jason himself, would come to realize it's actually a huge moneymaker if he knew what he was doing. He would lead Strybog to easily becoming the biggest group within its borders as he discovered 15-man raid groups were the best number to produce the highest amount of ISK per completion, so he would grow his numbers at an exponential rate and basically run the whole system while very few outsiders had any idea what was going on. CCP would eventually fix the negative reputation bug 3 months later in January 2021, and so it seemed that so long as people didn't know Parchment was a moneymaker, things would keep sailing smoothly from within. Now the reason as to why nobody knew that Parchment was such an easy moneymaker was actually quite simple. Here's the December 2024 monthly economics report that CCP drops each month showing the EVE Online economics, in which you can see that the corporate reward payout for Triglavian invasions was 6.2 trillion ISK generated that month. That's a pretty hefty chunk of change these days, and the reason people weren't able to figure out Parchment was such a lucrative place unless you were active inside was because even though it was officially added into the game in October 2020, CCP didn't add the metrics until March 2021. I know in a video he made talking about EVE, Jason said that Parchment wasn't making good money, but I've been told otherwise by multiple people, including those who were on his side within the Parchment forum. All I can say is he's either delusional, misremembering, or outright lying to paint himself as a victim in some way, so I'll be moving on. Now when that March 2021 monthly economics report came out and people saw that Parchment was worth their time, they would also find out that Jason was basically running the show from within. And a lot of people already had their grievances with the guy as his reputation in the game wasn't exactly the best. So, on top of seeing a huge money-making opportunity, they also had a chance to directly get back at someone getting disliked. And so people try and enter the space through wormholes as they didn't have high enough standings to enter through the gates. Where things get interesting is on April 15th, 2021, Jason will put out his campaign to be elected to the Council of Stellar Management, a council of 10 EVE players that have direct connections to CCP and meet up in real life at their offices to give insight on the game and help make it better. It's a pretty strong position that holds a whole lot of power.
Yeah,
so knowing Jason and his lust for it, he would make 5 changes to the game if he was voted in. With the most important being that he was asking for the gates to enter Parchment to be unlocked entirely. As by his own words, he would say, quote, "It's more interesting to have open and dangerous space than it is to have content locked with a brick wall." A few weeks after Jason's post, CCP would actually listen to him and open the gates to Parchment on May 4th, meaning that waves upon waves of people start to enter the system in order to get easy money and get rich just like Strybog and the other clades within. I want to point out, Jason has gone on record asking for the gates to be opened and CCP did it, yet in his video he frames it as if the devs are directly colluding against him by opening them up, despite literally asking him to do that. In the comments when people would bring up the forum post, Jason would say how he was also asking the devs to make it where any new player who entered Parchment would also be put at a disadvantage, but the point here is that he still asked for the gates to be opened and he never told any of his audience. He would then bring up how after they opened the gates, CCP accidentally bugged the NPC guards and that they would attack their own Triglavian Aligned members now, but again, the point here isn't that a new bug was now added in the game, it was the fact he got what he wanted by the gates opening. They just didn't put players at a disadvantage when entering, and the bugged NPCs didn't help either as well. This stood out to me as he was leaving out important context that went against the narrative he was pushing in his video, as it's one thing if CCP opened the gates on their own, but we now know that Jason asked for that to happen, it just didn't go exactly how he wanted. Now just 4 days later on the 9th, war would break out in the region. To make a long story short, a group named Electus Matari would attack a group named Malicious Mineral Hounds. The leader of the hounds was friends with Jason, and so Strybog would attack back and win. And then Strybog would continue to go after Electus as they were smaller than them.
I know you
However,
have.
other groups would join Electus as they either didn't like Jason or just wanted to fight for fun. And so as the month went on, it became clear that Strybog was no match for Electus as he weren't good enough PvP players as their opponents. The burnout started to build up on Strybog's side as well, with players waking up at random odd hours of the night with little sleep in order to protect their various structures within. As when Parchment was formed, all that was already inside became one of a kind, meaning that once they were destroyed, they could never be made again, making them extremely valuable in terms of rarity. The question became not if they'll lose the war, but rather when they'll lose the war. And so Jason would start peace treaty talks with Electus as the war raged on. However, on June 9th, after losing a final structure to battle, talks would abruptly end, and the next day he would put out his massive plan called the Final Triangle on the Strybog Discord server, which was basically a giant frontal assault to shift things in their favor as quickly as possible. However, the final triangle would amount to nothing. And so on June 16th, after talking with the leaders of his alliances, Jason will put out a message to the war effort titled Let It Burn. This message is very interesting as he starts talking about how when Potchman was first launched, it was a broken mess of boredom and bugs throughout.
I got a
And notably in the
package
third
to
paragraph
make
starts to
in the,
talk about how
air fryer,
CCP
so-
didn't put out the monthly economic
Yo,
report
what?
numbers for
Package
Potchman for
what?
months because of what he said was the
onions
region
for
making
breading
no
on
ISK
it.
despite what I've been told
Breaded
by
onions.
otherwise. He would then directly accuse CCP
And
of
also
not
the
putting
onion
numbers
rings.
into the MER until they fixed the bugs or framed them as richer than they actually were.
Can you do a
Basically saying
blooming
that the devs
onion
are secretly
in
plotting
a
against him in a state of delusion.
air
He
fryer?
would then start to complain about seed
I would
goaling and
assume
say it was
so,
an
but I
exploit.
don't know how to
But to
make
be
one.
fair to CCP, they've said prior when replying to people complaining about it that it was an intended feature, even if it was a rather stupid and cheap one.
Gotta work on your
However, the
knife
most
skills.
interesting part is when Jason talks about the gates opening, in which he
I
tries to
don't
frame
like
it as if
that.
the
I just
devs
bought
are
a tool.
directly
I
colluding
just bought
against
a
him by
tool
doing
to
this. As we already know, he asked for the
You
gates
bought
to
a
be
tool to
opened
make
himself
Gary
weeks before the
serious.
war even began.
I would
This was
buy
easily
one.
the most interesting part, as it shows just how far he was willing to twist things in
I
order
won't
to
trust
delude
my
himself
knife
and make him
skills
seem
like
like a
that.
victim.
I can
As
cut,
seed
but
goaling was a
not
cheap
that
tactic,
well.
no doubt, and the whole bugged NPCs thing wasn't a
Yeah,
good
and
thing
I
at
don't
all.
like,
Saying that the devs are
onions all that
directly
much.
colluding against him despite having no
Yeah.
evidence shows some
Onions
delusion
so
on
good.
some pretty high
I like
levels.
them. I just
He
don't
asked for the
like
gates to
them
be
in a
open
lot
and
of
got what he wanted.
situations.
It just wasn't exactly
Yellow
how he wanted.
onions,
And add that on top of a war he
white
was losing,
onions,
he deluded
purple
himself into
onions.
thinking CCP was plotting against him when realistically, he
Purple
probably
onions,
just
onions.
wasn't enough
pumpkin,
at the game.
salad,
The final section of
or
Let It Burn is
some
Jason
I like
showing how
onions
he and the
and
other leaders met
ramen
together to
or
figure out what to
pasta.
do, in which they decided
But
to
I
start
don't like
burning
it.
down all their structures
I
and
don't
defies
like
the CCP
onions by
themselves.
itself.
Now, obviously,
or
this
as a
looks
main
like
dish.
Jason and the others are throwing a fit about losing the war. So
I
I
like
would reach out
onions
to
in
one of
my
the people who was
burger.
part of his side of the war, Opus Magnum, for
I like it
clarification
raw.
on his side of things. He would tell me
I
that the
could
reason they
in
started
theory
burning
see
all their
it on the
structures
burger. I
wasn't
just
just because they were upset with
don't
CCP,
care for that either. I
but
like
also
it how
because
it
of the players
goes with
getting
tomato
immensely burned
sauce
out, waking up
for
at random
pasta.
odd hours of the night defending
Yeah.
stuff they had no chance of defending. So burning them was
And
basically
for,
letting things go to a symbol that they didn't need to stress anymore.
ramen, I
As
like
for those
it
that don't
in
know,
that too.
this game has a lot of very
Not
hardcore
necessarily
players who
ramen
can
has
and will play
flavor.
as hard as they can in order to win.
But
even
usually
if they have
for
no chance
ramen,
of
you
doing
just
so.
cut it very
That all of a
fine.
sudden, the annoyance of seagulling not being fixed despite asking the devs for it were
But
the
it
main
tastes
issues.
good.
So the
And it's
burning was
white
a mixture of
onion
getting rid of the
they
stress on their members, losing the war, and being
This is
annoyed
why
with the
it tastes
devs. The framing in the post is simply to make it sound grandeur in
I like
nature
the
and playing to the
I like the
politics
sweet
behind the game.
onions. Is
As
those
far
the
as the
baby
delusional
onions?
post
Those are
directly
so
attacking
good.
CCP
I
for
grew
the
up
MER
eating it
opening the
when I
gates,
was
he would agree that
first
Jason was
came to
stretching it,
Texas.
but at the time he just wanted
When
his
I was
grievances to be talked about and didn't really care what Jason's issues
about
were, as
8,
they all
the
kind of
first
just
I
wanted to
came
get things over with.
in
With
Texas.
that being said, I still believe Jason
Visit
was deluding
Texas on my
himself, trying
first
to blame
time.
the MER stuff and gates opening on
And
the
my
devs colluding
dad's
against
mother
him,
was
especially again
growing
given he
sweet
directly asked for the
onions
gates to be open himself.
in the
Now
the
this
garden
is basically
and
the end of the war right
have it
here, as
with
Jason and his side
the
lost.
meal.
And most people expected he would continue to play the game even if things didn't go such as not getting voted onto the CSM after losing his campaign. However, on July 24th, 2021, he would make his final post saying that he would be quitting the game entirely and would pay off all the debts incurred during the war before he left the game. Opus will confirm to me that he did indeed pay off all the debts and didn't just lie and quit on everybody. And given that EVE is a game that people use real money to play, it does show to me that Jason isn't just some deranged man who doesn't care about anyone, as let's
Where's
face
Toxic
it,
Lady?
he could have just left the game
She
entirely
went to
and
go
not paid
pick up
things off and
her
wouldn't have faced
nephew.
any issues. And I do think it's a respectable thing of him to do, even if he
He
showed
doesn't know
himself
how
to
to
be an
drive yet?
egotistical maniac throughout this video.
One
Now, as for
car,
the
maybe.
exact reason why Jason left EVE Online, I couldn't figure that out. Opus didn't want to speak on it because it's all just negative rumors he was told.
He can
Given there
always
was
see
no
the
hard
number
evidence
11
to work
bucks.
with, I couldn't figure it out on my own. Either way though, this entire EVE Online arc
With
of
a long
Jason's life
walk.
is interesting, as not only did I learn that EVE is a much deeper game than I ever expected, it showed that the way Jason portrays himself as this hard-headed yet charismatic figure goes back multiple years, and that he's quit various gaming communities whenever he starts getting heat his way. Now, Jason started the Pirate Software game company in 2016 and released his first title, Champions of Breakfast, on June 23rd that same year. It's nothing crazy, it's just a simple side-scrolling shooter game that doesn't break any barriers or anything like that, and it would be successful enough in the indie sphere to plan a new game for release. Also, I found it pretty funny that he rated his own game 10 out of 10. Just thought to show that to y'all real quick. The next game he planned would be Heartbound, an Undertale-inspired RPG that was put on the Steam Greenlight program way back in November 2016, with an impending release date for sometime in 2017. The game would get officially greenlit on Steam just a couple weeks later in December December that same year. And in February 2017, Jason would put up a Kickstarter campaign and get just under $20,000 in order to fund the project. In an article on GameDeveloper.com, he would reveal he set the goal low so that when it got crazy numbers, other sites would pick up the story and promote it as a rising star, showing that he well understands human nature and how it works. However, the game would get delayed to sometime in 2018, and eventually in October that year, Jason would announce it would be hitting Steam Early Access in December if everything went by plan. This would come to fruition as the game would come out in Early Access on Christmas Day, and for the next few years would be worked on for its eventual completion one day. However, the game would hit a wall as despite getting out the second chapter sometime in 2019, in 2020 COVID would happen, in which Jason would say online that he got sick throughout the whole year and pretty much lost an entire year's worth of time that he could have put into chapter 3 because of that. This delay would go from 1 year to 3 years, as despite planning to release Chapter 3 on Christmas Eve 2023, the date would swing and miss and Chapter 3 was still not released despite being in development since 2020. Mind you, this is the guy who promotes himself as the dude who worked at Blizzard for 7 years and has been in the games industry for 20 years, yet he has a game that's been in development for a total of 8 years so far, with 5 of those years being dedicated to just Chapter 3 of the experience. This is utterly absurd, and if anything, it shows that ever since he's become a streamer, he realized that he's gonna make a lot more money streaming, so why even work on a game anymore? Even in February 2024, when he blew up in the streaming sphere, someone on Steam would say how all he does is play games now, and he would reply to them getting super defensive about how he's doing all this stuff and how he's busy and how he has a whole bunch of other things going on, saying that he works in Heartbound every single day at the end of the rant, which I'm just gonna say, I highly doubt. There's also this post on a certain fruit farm themed website where a user looked at 164 hours of stream footage to find out that Jason only worked on it for a total of 15 minutes throughout that time, adding even more insult to injury in the process. He also dropped another game called Kill the Moon as well so that he could focus on Heartbound, but let's face it, that game is as good as dead given it's been since 2020 when that happened. Now Jason's coding is its own story, and I'll keep it real. I don't know about coding much and how to properly judge it. However, the examples on screen should be enough to show that he probably ain't the gaming genius he promotes himself as, and in fact, he might even surpass the Yandere dev as their coding looks pretty similar to each other. But hey, I don't want to spend too much time on something I don't know that much about, but if anything, this shows that maybe those 7 years at Blizzard aren't exactly accurate to the way he's been promoting it. Oh yeah, his time at Blizzard. That thing is its own whole story going on. Turns out Jason here is the son of Joey Hall, one of the first 10 Blizzard employees and one of the most important gaming developers in history. In fact, Joey was such an influential figure in gaming history that his look was the inspiration for the fat guy in the South Park episode where they play World of Warcraft together. That's how important he is to gaming in general. Jason would get his job at Blizzard not because of his skills, but because he was the son of a powerful dev. And in fact, for the first 4.5 years, he was a QA guy for the company and never did any dev work at all. He would then start working in security and would do so for about 2.5 years, eventually capping off his time at the company with a year working as a senior red team specialist, basically looking over protection and hacking related things within the company. So, it's pretty easy to see that even though Jason did start working for Blizzard, the only reason he even got the job to begin with was due to nepotism. However, anytime someone calls him a nepo baby, he gets pretty upset about it despite this being true no matter how you try to spin it.
Anytime people say shit like that, because it's deeply disrespectful and it completely overwrites any of the things that I've done throughout my career as something that is somebody else's success, which they
dropped a pot.
I have 3 pots and
it's just rude. So,
Alright.
what do you say? In the thing, he said it was he called me a nepo baby in his article. No, that's dog shit behavior. Really gross.
Now in that clip, he's referring to an article written by Steven Assarch back in July 2024, which at one point in it, he directly calls Jason a nepo baby due to the fact his father is an industry titan as he puts so himself. This would annoy Jason so much that he replied to the article on Twitter about how he called him a nepo baby. And in fact, Steven will go into a live stream and reveal that Jason had the event they made up at where he conducted the interview to reach out to him in order to try and get that part taken out of his article.
Because the article was full of factual inaccuracies. He actually contacted the event that I had interviewed him at and had the event reach out to me in an attempt to try to get the fact that I called him a nepo baby taken out of the article. Which is that has never happened before or since.
Given how Jason has used this part to take down multiple YouTube videos talking about him in the past, this isn't surprising. I just find it funny. He's so deluded thinking he's not a nepo baby when he is, and he gets mad about it whenever people say it. Don't get me wrong. If you watching this video in the same spot as Jason, take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. Just be self-aware enough to understand that you got where you are because of that connection. It's not a bad thing like how some try to twist it, but it's certainly funny seeing how he gets annoyed when people state a factual thing about him. He just doesn't like feeling as if he's being belittled in any way at all. Now Jason has also been part of the DEF CON hacking conference and won 3 badges doing puzzles throughout the years. He's framed it in the past as he was the big smart guy who carried everything, but he was actually just another member of a large team of people working on things together despite this framing. I'm not going to focus on the hacking skills or the false framing or debate on how much he contributed to the team, but what I will focus on is his claims about the TV show Mr. Robot and why he doesn't like it.
As an OPSEC specialist, how I think was Mr. Robot, I don't like Mr. Robot. They took some information that they should not have taken from a write-up that I did on some puzzles that I solved at DEF CON, and then they put them into an episode of the show. And I found out about it. And the only source for that knowledge was my write-up. Don't do that. Do you want to know what one of the solutions for that was? It was the Puzzle Master's personal cell phone number.
Hit him 3 times now.
To which he got thousands of calls.
It's probably
Maybe don't put things in your episode if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe don't do that. Idiots.
Now, Jason frames it as if they stole his work and didn't give him the credit for it. And in fact, back in September 2016 on Twitter, after the Mr. Robot team posted part of the answer online, he was starting to complain about how they didn't give him the credit he feels he deserves, going on to link his Tumblr post where he posted it. This was from DEF CON 22 in August 2014, and in specific, the part the team posted online was an answer to a simple number-to-letter cipher down at the bottom there, in which the last 4 parts are taken out because it was the creator of the cipher's name tag 1057, or better known in leak speak as Lost. What's notable is that in the Mr. Robot tweet, they wouldn't post anything referring to Lost in it, and in fact, it was actually Jason linking his Tumblr post where people found out it was Lost who wrote it, ironically enough. Also, that part where they said they stole his work, turns out you can find a pamphlet they gave the hackers to solve at the DEF CON conference itself on the website as well, meaning that it wasn't just his write-up on Tumblr where you could find the answer to the question. So basically, Jason lied saying they stole his work from his Tumblr page, as while it's possible they might have come across it, it's far more likely the Mr. Robot team took what they saw from DEF CON's website itself rather than his post. Also, for good measure, here's an example of another team who made their own write-up just like how Jason did, showing that he literally got caught up in his head thinking they stole his work when they didn't, and that he was lying to his millions of fans. On top of that, given the Mr. Robot team didn't post the entire site itself, people had no way of figuring out Lost's phone number, so on top of trying to take false credit for something and lying about the chain of events to his fans, he also brought more eyes to the very puzzle he said that caused Lost to get a bunch of calls. At least that is, if he believed Lost got any callers at all, and it wasn't just Jason lying again to try to make the Mr. Robot team look worse and him look better. It's so bizarre to me he would lie about something so easy to prove wrong, but as we've come to see throughout this video, he has a pattern of just lying about whatever to make him seem like the coolest person in the room. Jason was also caught cheating at puzzle games on stream as well. There were a couple instances of this, but the most notable would be in the game Animal Well in these 2 clips I'm about to show you. The first would be when after solving part of a puzzle, it prints out a real sheet of paper in your own house to use. Jason's printer is not located in his room, meaning he would have no idea that a piece of paper printed out unless he knew the steps to solving this already by looking it up either before he started streaming or on his phone. Now watch how this entire ordeal goes down.
One moment. My house is haunted as shit. I just heard, like, somebody walking around, and I went and got my giant spoons and my machete, because those are the only 2 things that I have. And I hear someone walking around the wooden floor upstairs. Like, obvious heavy footprints. And I go up there, I'm like, who's in the goddamn house? Because I'm here alone. And I go up there, all the doors are locked, no one's here. And that wasn't like a quiet thing, that was loud enough that I heard it over the game. Okay. We need a nibble. Isn't a nibble half a byte? Let me go pull this up. Yeah, 4 consecutive binary digits or half of an 8-bit byte. So, we're dealing with an 8-bit byte, and this is a nibble. The hell is that noise? One moment. There's some freaking noise. I need to find out what the hell that is. My house is not haunted. The printer was still plugged in, sitting in the wall. And every time I hit that computer in game, it printed this shit. And then every time it printed it, the paper would fall on the floor and then make a loud noise because the paper was hitting stuff on the way down. And I thought it was a man upstairs. But it was not a man upstairs. It was the game haunting my printer.
That's right. Despite having headphones on and talking so it would be harder to hear noise around his empty house, the paper falling was so loud he thought it was someone walking around his home. This is very easily a lie. He knew what happened because he looked up the steps, and instead of being honest with his chat and saying he got stuck or whatever, he made up some egregious fake ordeal because he just has to be seen as some sort of mega genius around him. The second clip is pretty self-explanatory. Jason makes a connection to the background wall out of nowhere despite having no reason to even look at it to begin with.
No, there's no remote in my house. Not for sure it would be in there, huh? Wait. It's the lengths. It's the lengths. This is 4 blocks wide. This is 4 blocks wide. This goes in the top left.
Mind you, this part of the puzzle took the community over a week to figure out, and yet Jason here was able to figure it out in a matter of minutes simply by running around and thinking. Given we know how much this guy lies, it's pretty obvious he looked up this part as well, but just like the last puzzle, instead of being honest with people about it, he has to paint himself like he's some sort of super genius who figured this out way quicker than those normal people out there who spent over a week on the puzzle as a group. Also, a Redditor will point out that the second puzzle we just went over was finally solved on May 19th, 2024, and it just so happened that same day Jason somehow magically managed to figure it out all on his own so quickly. We already know he's lying here, but it's just more evidence the dude is so insecure about looking smart that he has to lie about the way he plays games, and that's just pretty funny at the end of the day if you ask me. On January 17th, 2025, an indie game developer named Brandon will add Jason into his game Idle Streaming Bonanza, in which he uses a cockroach as his persona and some audio clips he ripped off stream. Now the thing is, despite saying he added him into his game, he actually didn't and was just showing off a personal build instead, basically trying to get people to buy his game under false pretenses. That's a tiny bit scummy, and in most cases people write him off and move on with their channel. But Jason here isn't most people, as he will go on to send a DMCA to Steam to get the game taken down off the service. The issue here is that this is the dev's personal build and he never actually added Jason into the Steam version of the game. So this is a false DMCA, as Jason didn't even do the proper research into seeing whether he was actually in the game or not. He just saw the clip and immediately assumed he was in the game. Brandon even went to the Pirate Software Discord server to submit a false DMCA to get it fixed, alongside filing a counter notice to Steam as well. On stream after getting a counter notice, Jason would tell his chat how Brandon added him in the game and how his moderator Kronos is a copyright lawyer and how he DMCA'd it. But again, as we just saw, this is an illegal DMCA, meaning that Kronos over here must be a pretty stupid lawyer for letting his client make himself out to be a fool to millions of people online.
There was a dude earlier today that went onto Reddit and said that he was using my voice in a video game, showed a bunch of videos of it, and then put that game up on Steam. A lot of people in the thread told him not to do that, that would end up being a legal problem for him. He did it anyway. So I filed a DMCA claim, and he has now filed a counterclaim against me. We're going to take you to court. You're going to lose. You cannot use somebody's likeness or voice in any way inside of your games without their permission. It's a really stupid thing to do. Incredibly so. So I'm going to send this over to Kronos now, because he is a lawyer in copyright law. That is his job.
Saying how confidently that Brandon was going to lose despite literally breaking a lot to silence a critic of his is hilarious to me. But again, given those multiple YouTube videos that he's falsely taken down in the past, him threatening to silence people with copyright and DMCA is just another thing he does to get the edge on anyone who dares go at him. Brandon even made a video on his channel confirming this was all bait so that he could get attention to his game, completely playing Jason like a fiddle in the process as well.
You're the only person Pally responded to out of thousands of people, I'm aware.
That's totally fine. You took the bait, hook, line, and sinker, because you're the most predictable person on the planet.
YouTuber Frosta Rivia will cover this on his channel and the video will blow up instantly, with it gaining over 200,000 views in a little over a day. With this newfound attention on his illegal DMCA against Brandon, Jason would reply to Frost's Twitter saying that it wasn't illegal despite, as we've seen already, it was. And it was obvious he was just using his typical tactic of manipulating things in his favor, as he's done so countless times throughout his life online. Frost would respond showing that when you file a claim on Steam, you check a box saying that you own the copyright. And again, given that Brandon never added him into the Steam release of the game and just his personal build, meant that Jason was directly lying and sent in a false DMCA in order to take the game down because he was being made fun of. Frost would also reveal that Kronos is a lawyer based out of the UK, meaning that the dude didn't even understand US copyright law and was instead pushing his weight around to bully Brandon. This is very apparent in this small snippet of DMs Brandon had with Kronos, in which he says repeatedly that Jason is not in the Steam release in the game and therefore the DMCA is illegal, in which Kronos continues to try and force him to change something that can't be changed because it was never in the product to begin with. Despite being a lawyer, even if based out of the UK, Kronos will show that he's either a very daft person or is doing typical lawyer sleaziness to get his way, and part of getting his way was to threaten Brandon after he had to give his legal information to the counterclaim on the DMCA, as he would tell him, "Nice docs, bud," and say that he was passing over all this information to his local police before kicking him out of the Pirate Software Discord server. That's right, a lawyer threatened to use the docs of their detractor to push him further into their submission, mind you, over something that he technically never did, as Brandon never actually added Jason into his Steam build of the game. It seems that Jason likes to surround himself with people who are just like him, who are willing to bully others and argue their way out of a bad spot. And it seems that Kronos is possibly even stupider, given that at least Jason never threatened to dox somebody and has only abused DMCA instead. Yeah, talk about one hell of a lawyer here. Meanwhile, Jason will confirm that he's banned over 30,000 people from his stream as he tries to keep his career running. And in another clip on February 2nd, we'll brag about how he's finally updated Hardbound after multiple years of nothing coming from the game.
Average game
The only
dev
thing is I don't have
access money.
any
We
really long
released an update
range
for
over
Hardbound
a
yesterday.
rifle.
Average chatter that doesn't know
give
what he's
you
talking
one.
about.
I have
Went to
the
Reddit, learned his entire
green,
opinion off of
but
Reddit, and came in here and shit talked.
A marksman
It turns out that
rifle.
while he did update the game, he updated the beta branch and not the public branch where you normally play the title. And so in a bitterly timed Steam update, just 3 days later, where Valve added a warning to early access games that hadn't been properly updated in a year, Heartbound would be one of many added to the list of potentially abandoned games. Even though by this point most people know the game is basically abandonware and the only reason Jason is working on it again is because people are trashing on him for it and he knows he can't argue his way out of that one, it was yet another example of people waking up to him being a fraud throughout his gaming dev.
There's a B right there.
Jason would even try to
Pick it up
argue with
before we
Steam
go.
themselves, saying that they improperly labeled his game as potentially abandoned, in which they would point out that an update only counts if it's on the default, aka public branch of the title at the bottom reply, as you can see.
probably
Now
get
this
the speed
situation,
together.
even though it had mostly left the gaming mainstream by this point in time, was seriously negatively impacting Jason's career. I know that canceling people never truly works unless you're doing some illegal stuff online, but I can't sit here and lie saying that it wasn't making an impact, as his view counts plummeted after the WoW stuff went down. His Twitch streaming numbers are below half of what he was getting before all that happened, as he was easily getting over 20k concurrent viewers but could barely hit 7 to 8k afterwards. Here's a screenshot of his YouTube views before it got exposed, in which every video was easily over 6 figures in views and even a couple just below are over 1 million. His numbers after that are paltry compared to before, and so even though he lost a chunk of subscribers, it seems that a huge amount who were still subscribed weren't willing to watch his stuff anymore because how much of an asshole he is. Also, you may see right there that one of those videos has a lot of views, and it turns out that on February 20th, 2025, Jason decided to finally respond to everything surrounding him once and for all. However, the video is mostly more twisting and false information, such as how he says his old Second Life name Maldavius Figtree is actually about a TV-themed character he used to run around as and was also part of that Kill the Moon game I mentioned earlier, despite everybody knowing by this point it's actually his furry persona he used to go by back in the day. It's bewildering that he still keeps avoiding the furry stuff and starts to just lie about it to people, and by this point I was thinking to myself there's gotta be something really embarrassing attached to this, otherwise why would he continue to lie about it when everybody knows about this already? Jason also talks about the Ashes of Creation incident where he blamed a teammate for a raid wipe despite it being his fault, but the most interesting part of the first half of the video was when he would admit he hadn't worked on Heartbound for the last year.
Heartbound, the indie game that I work on. People are currently review bombing this. They're very upset, and I can understand why in some of those cases I haven't worked on the game for the last year. I could have communicated better this entire time though, and that's completely on me. I'm a dumbass for not putting out more announcement posts and releasing information to you guys to let you know that was what was going on, and I was stressed the entire time and acting like a fool.
He's right. He could have just told people that he was focusing on his vastly bigger moneymaker in his streaming career than working on his game, yet decided to give himself this title of being a quote-unquote game dev just to seem more authoritative to his viewers. It's very clear to me, in my opinion, that he lost the passion for making the game even before his streaming career took off, but he still has the obligation to complete it for those that donated the money. Or he can refund those people who donated and let this negative marketing of not being able to complete a game haunt him for the rest of his life, so people at every corner of the internet use it to make fun of him, but as we know, he does not like being made fun of, so maybe he'll actually complete the game out of spite one day. The other stuff is more inane details like how he's a Nepo baby, in which Jason denies so despite, again, his father literally being one of the most important Blizzard figures in the entire company's history, and at one point he even plays a clip of Joy Ray himself saying how Jason's boss apologized to him for talking to him out of nowhere, not knowing that Jason was his son.
I remember one time he had his boss's company because he seemed to me to to apologize that one of his people talked to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, Thor came up and was talking to you, and I don't think that's appropriate and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I go, just so you know, I'm going to keep talking to Thor when he comes and talks to me because he's my son. This was 2 years after he worked for this guy, and this guy did not know.
So funny thing here, yes, time that was 4 years.
Thor is my son, and it's okay for Thor to come talk to me. You know, but it was in public. It was in this quad at work. It's just, but it's like, no, he can talk to me anytime, just like anybody else at Blizzard could come talk to me.
For those who don't understand what's going on there, my own boss didn't know who my dad was. It's really hard to be a Nepo baby when the people who control your career have no idea who your connections are.
Now, it's a fun little story about how some people didn't know that he was Joey's son. But really, think about it real quick. Was it Jason's boss who hired him? I highly doubt it, as it's very, very extremely unlikely in such a large company like Blizzard that the boss was the one who was there when he got hired. At that, the boss also very likely wasn't given all the information of Jason's personal details when he sent in his resume to the company, as it would be human resources who would get all that and figure out they were related. On top of that, Jason's last name is Hall, a very simple and common last name, so the boss never put 2 and 2 together because he probably met a couple Halls in his life just as how you might have met a couple Smiths, or in my case, a bunch of Moraleses who aren't related at all. The fact that this is all Jason can come up with really shows that he has nothing to combat the nepotism stuff. He just gets butthurt mad whenever people bring it up and can't accept that it helped him get to where he is in life today. I already said there's no issue taking advantage of the opportunities in front of you earlier, but it's clearly an ego thing to him straight up. When it comes to how his voice got deeper, Jason now says he just controls the vocal range of it, but in the past he said he went through a second puberty and implies this was out of his control.
I went to the doctor because my voice dropped. And I was like, what's going on? I used to have a much higher pitched voice a couple of years back, and my voice dropped out of nowhere. And I went to go talk to my doctor because I'm like, what's going on? Because I was talking like 10 hours a day. And I was worried I had vocal cord nodules because you can develop basically calluses on your vocal cords, and like that can turn into cancer and all kinds of other shit. So I went to the doctor and I'm like, yo, what's going on? They sent me to an ENT, which is an ear, nose, and throat doctor. They put a scope in my nose, a camera down to look at my vocal cords, and they're like, no, your vocal cords are perfect. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So I went back to my doctor. My doctor's like, hey, sometimes guys in their early and mid 30s can have second puberty, and your voice just drops. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, it might happen to you again when you're 60, so maybe I'll get an even deeper voice. That's even more ridiculous. I can actually just control the vocal range of my voice. Just go like this and go all the way down to the vocal range. This isn't that hard. Then go like this all the way up into your nose and talk like this. Amazingly, people's voices change over time, and they do this at different ages as you go through life. On top of this, streaming and talking for 12 hours a day doesn't make that any easier or better.
So, which is it? Did he go through a second puberty, or did he lie to everybody about the second puberty to explain why his voice got deeper? Obviously, the answer here is that he lied about the second puberty, and the reason why is pretty obvious. It's because admitting that you practice to get your voice deeper implies insecurity, and someone as egotistical as Jason would never want to show anyone they were insecure about something. I still think part of it was also because of that Elizabeth Holmes Theranos thing when talking with a deeper voice makes people subconsciously attracted to you more. But still, the fact that he lied about such a minute and tiny detail to his fans for so long is astounding to me, but we've seen this dude lie again and again and again and again, so it's not shocking at all. Speaking of lying, Jason also continues to lie about not cheating at Animal Well in another game called Outer Wilds, saying that if he wanted to cheat, he would just pull it up on one of his monitors rather than look at his phone.
A lot of people say that I cheated because I looked at my phone, because it was right here. Why would I cheat with my phone when I have a 3-monitor set? It's a pretty easy way to talk about this. I have one monitor here that actually shows broadcast information, usually using game capture, so I could put a guide up here if I wanted to in the first place. This one is just OBS. I could put it right next to the chat there, and it'd be really easy to hide it because I'm constantly looking at chat anyway. Or I could put it on the right and put it on another one where I put all my social media stuff. It doesn't make any sense to use a phone to look at a guide while you're running through a game like that when you could just look at anything else.
Fair point, but that still doesn't explain the obviously fake printer scenario that he said happened, or the fact how easily he figured out Animal World compared to the rest of the entire Animal World community playing the game. It's still very obvious that he cheated and won't admit it, and I find it hilarious because it all comes down to his insane insecurity of just having to be the smartest person in the room. And it's even funnier seeing him try to keep up this crumbling facade because his ego won't let him admit that he's not that super smart guy he portrays himself to be. Now, Jason conveniently doesn't go over how he and Chronos sent in a false DMCA to Brandon over his game, and so a comment will bring this up, notably saying why he didn't talk about the lawsuit he filed. If you don't know, a DMCA claim isn't technically a lawsuit, and so Jason would see this and play into the semantics despite knowing the true intentions behind the comment, even going on to lie again and say that Brandon added his voice into the game despite this being untrue. Again, it was a personal build that he was baiting people into buying his game on Steam under false pretenses, but given that Jason and Kronos didn't do their due diligence, they still sent in a false DMCA, and in Kronos' case, was very obviously showing his intention was to silence Brandon into submission rather than actually deal with the legal issue. Again, it's astounding to me how willing he is to lie about things that are very easy to prove false, but I've been repeating this so much throughout the video that it's kinda just part of who he is. Now I had a theory as to why Jason refuses to mention any of the furry stuff, but thankfully I don't need to go into it as a future situation will bring a lot of much needed context and information that explains everything going on there much easier. On June 9th, 2025, Twitter user Lyric Wolf dropped a thread claiming that Jason emotionally abused and manipulated him for sexual and financial gain, and that whatever went down caused him to have to quit college and being a content creator. He has a website where he organizes all this information, but he also drops the full Telegram logs between the two of them, which is far more important to me, so let's take a look at them together here. To give a quick rundown, Lyric met Jason in February 2018 after he posted a video on YouTube about the music from his Heartbound game. However, it was in August later that year where they would hit it off after Lyric donated $800 to Jason's stream, and the very next day they would get into some very spicy NSFW furry roleplay together. It's stuff that I can't really go into much detail on given just how explicit and vulgar it is for YouTube's rules on the site. The images on screen are the best I can show without breaking them, but trust me, this is very tame compared to what else goes down. They would start planning to meet up at TwitchCon very soon after all this, and would continue to participate in NSFW roleplays as Lyric caught feelings for Jason in the process. Jason would even talk about him getting tested for STDs beforehand, very clearly interested in getting to the next level with the dude. He even posts his furry persona Maldavius Figtree when Lyric asked what his persona is, further confirming that the ferret is Maldavius and he was lying about the TV character being that. And just to point out now, Jason has been lying saying these DMs are fake, and the reason we know he's lying is because he posted a never before seen picture of him in their DMs as you can see right now. And again, while we know the dude already lies about literally everything, it's just funny to see him continuously do it even when the evidence is stacked against him. On top of more NSFW furry roleplaying, Lyric and Jason will have various Discord calls together as they grew closer, and you can start to tell that Jason was now very clearly into the dude just as much as Lyric was into him shortly after becoming friends with one another. However, after seeing that Lyric got NSFW furry art with another person, Jason would get a little bit upset as he felt he was being unloyal despite it literally being just artwork, though this wouldn't lead to any issues yet anyways. Jason would start to vent about how he was struggling to gain viewers at the time, but that's not too interesting. Unlike how this one time when a 14-year-old was spamming up his Discord with crypto links so much that Lyric would end up doxing him, with Jason saying that he used to dox people when working at Blizzard. Mind you, Lyric was 20 and Jason was 31 at this moment in time. Given that Jason used to work security at Blizzard for a bit, it makes me wonder if he was abusing his power as a company to get back at people he didn't like back in the day, but I digress. More role-playing goes down as the days go by once again. Then they have a somewhat tense conversation together as Jason would say how he can't get a read on Lyric because he seems all over the place, and the way the messages read is in that very straightforward and aggressive way the dude is known for typing, showing his attitude goes back almost a decade now and very likely much further. They would make up though after explaining their feelings, and it was clear that Jason was still into the guy despite the small tension going on here. That is until just hours later he would get mad at Lyric for ERPing with the other dudes instead of just him, which is just hilarious to think about given they weren't even dating and the fact he's getting this bent over furry role plays. Like he literally equates that to going down on someone in real life, and it's just bizarre and funny to read as at the end of the day here, the people looking into this thought that Lyric has something deep to talk about, only for it to end up being a wishy-washy relationship with Jason and nothing more. Yeah, I'm sure y'all figured it out by now, but 90% of these DMs are just two dudes who are trying to lay pipe and really have feelings for each other, and frankly, nobody gives a shit about two people's relationships going bad, especially when it's extremely tame shit at the end of the day here. In fact, despite Lyric trying to say how Jason was manipulating him, none of this comes off as manipulation, and instead just him clarifying their status and bluntly talking about his issues with how things are going, which even if he still sounds like an asshole about it, that doesn't mean he was manipulating Lyric, and it shows that Lyric was just very clearly wrong with his promotion of these leaks to begin with. Like those claims of financial manipulation, for example. Lyric says that he was being pressured by Jason to keep donating large sums of money to his Kickstarter for plushies of a character from Heartbound, but when reading the text, the most that Jason did was show excitement that he would generously donate large sums of money like $500 at one point, for example, never not once trying to force him into giving him more. Lyric just liked seeing him happy and excited at the time because he was into him. He even says himself that he had the money when in reality he didn't have the money and was just lying to make Jason feel better for seeing such a large donation, only for Lyric to now try and twist this narrative years later to get back at him now that he's a gigantic laughingstock by majority of the internet. At one point, while trying to paint Jason as a financial abuser still, he shows how he donated $3,000 to the Kickstarter and how Jason was so excited but totally trying to manipulate him, guys, just trust him. Only for it to turn out in DMs that he was reassuring Jason that he had the money and it was all for his happiness and for him not to worry about it. He says that the reason he was manipulated into this was because Jason would make comments about how the Kickstarter might fail, but that isn't manipulation. That's just somebody worried about their project falling apart. And for Lyric to try and twist this and honestly lie about it is hilarious, as the DMs directly contradict that, DMs that he gave to everyone to see as well. Lyric would then change his pledge from 3,000 to 2,000 and tell Jason that he only did such a large amount so that he could push the Kickstarter to its goal, in which he tries to make it seem as if Jason is a bad person for showing disapproval to this when it's like, yeah, of course he'd be disappointed. $1,000 ain't no slack, and trying to paint it as if he's somehow bad for his response is ridiculous. Jason even states that he didn't know that was Lyric's intention, showing further how justified his response is despite Lyric trying to make it seem otherwise. Lyric would then lower it once more to 1,500, but say there's no evidence of them speaking about it on Telegram together and that it must have been because they were in a Discord call together. Fast forward to TwitchCon 2018, Jason tried to get away from his group to go meet up with Lyric in his hotel. In between 10:30 and 11 p.m, Jason will lay pipe as he mentions in text that he was glad Lyric got tested for STDs prior. It seems like nothing else could come from this, but it would turn out the very next day that Lyric would find out Jason was still married to his wife at the time, and things would get very awkward very fast. Jason would then try to use the fact that he leaked some of his DMs with Shay, his roommate as of today as a matter of fact, as a way to twist the situation onto him and try to make him out to be the bad guy somehow, and their friendship would end that very day from that point onwards. So, it turns out that Jason wasn't sexually or financially manipulating Lyric. They both had a thing for each other, and Lyric is just a scorned lover, with the most notable thing to learn from all this is that Jason cheated on his wife. We know this because Lyric provided Jason's marriage records, and we can see that they filed for divorce in February 2019, a few months after they went down on each other at TwitchCon, with that being finalized in August 2020. So yeah, Jason cheated on his wife with Lyric and has lied about the messages not being real because they're very embarrassing, and Lyric is rather delusional, thinking people will actually believe the false narrative he's trying to paint Jason in. As much of a piece of shit Jason is, none of the claims that Lyric made are true, and if Lyric instead led people on with the story that Jason cheated on his wife with him, he would have gotten a much better reception. Also, that whole part with how being Jason's mistress, or mister in this case, caused him to quit college is just bullshit. Dude is probably struggling already, and Jason didn't do anything to cause him to drop his career further when reading the DMs. He's just projecting his inadequacies onto a bad experience he had with a former lover. What is kind of interesting though is that Lyric actually tried to come out about all this back on April 5th, 2019 in a since deleted Google Doc, but was shown off the internet as it backfired in his face. The reason why is because Lyric ended up charging back an $800 donation on PayPal in March, months after he and Jason stopped talking. So in a weird ironic way, it turns out he was financially manipulating Jason himself, as well as straight up admitting